So you are Ralapalli Jagat Sai.
Yes, sir.
There is one comedian in Telugu movies with surname of Ralapalli. Do you know him?
Yes, sir. I have seen some of his movies.
Okay. Are you also related to him?
No, sir.
No. All right. So you are from West Godavari district, very famous Bhimdol Mandal.
Yes, sir.
You studied mechanical engineering in Vellore Institute of Technology.
Yes, sir.
So you studied in Vellore campus itself or Chennai or where?
Sir, in Vellore campus itself.
Vellore campus, okay. And then after completing your engineering, what did you do? You worked for a few months in Mahindra World City, Wipro Technologies.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Now, you please tell me what is unique about Mahindra World City? Are there any unique features as far as you know? Please explain.
Sir, it is a CEZ area, sir, a special economic zone, which is developed by the Mahindra Group. It is in the outskirts of Chennai, mainly to develop it as an export hub, sir.
Is it also supported by some Tamil Nadu company or no government company?
Yes, sir. It is a public-private partnership, sir.
Okay. So, what is the public-private partnership? Please elaborate.
Sir, mainly in infrastructure sector, the public sector and also the private sector come together with varying terms and conditions, and they complete the project, and also based on the terms and conditions laid before the start of the project, they share the revenue and other profits, sir.
All right. Now, what was your role in Wipro as a project engineer for a brief period that you worked? You worked for any client?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I worked for Corning Gorilla Glass, a company which manufactures the smartphone glass, which is based in United States of America. My role was information management. The infrastructure, IT infrastructure management of the Corning Gorilla Glass from Wipro side, sir.
Why did you leave the job?
Sir, to pursue civil services, sir, to dedicatedly prepare for it.
Okay. Now, before I hand over to my colleague, please tell me the village secretariat system that you have in Andhra Pradesh.
Yes, sir.
Is it doing good to the people? Is it a progressive step or a retrograde step, considering the fact that there is a possibility of using technology to reduce interface between service providers and service takers?
Yes, sir. Sir, the village secretariat system is a successful initiative, sir. Although it has a few lacunae in it. Firstly, sir, it made government more accessible to the people by providing services at the doorstep. And it is also observed that the corruption at the ground level and the satisfaction of the public has also improved after bringing village secretariat system. Having said that, sir, there are certain issues with respect to the employment criteria and conditions of the gram volunteers. Their satisfaction levels and motivation levels, they are not not up to expected levels. So and sometimes these secretariat personnel are at coming crossroads with the panchayat functionaries also. So these are some of the lacunae that in this system, sir. If we solve these problems, I think it will be a successful model, sir.
Okay. Did this initiative satisfy the 73rd Amendment to the Constitution, which talks about empowering the rural local bodies with funds, functions, and functionaries?
Sir, this step is an extension to the mandate given in 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. Although it has it is independent from the panchayati system, but sir, it can complement and supplement the role of panchayats at the ground level, sir.
Okay. Now I'll pass it on to Vivek Garu, who is a former member of Telangana State Public Service Commission.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Sai. I prefer to call you Sai. It's okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Sai, I know you are from Andhra Pradesh, and Andhra Pradesh has seen a lot of elections in the recent times, and also had a love affair with judiciary. Uh,
Yes, sir.
so let me understand from you uh, what are these elections and why the election commissioner got into the focus and we harbored the headlines for quite some time. What exactly is this controversy? Can you put the whole episode in some perspective?
Sure, sir. Sir, the State Election Commissioner of Andhra Pradesh in March 2020 has notified notification for conducting elections for Panchayati Raj and municipal corporations. However, in March 2020, we faced COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent lockdowns deferred the elections until the February-March 2021. So again in February, March, the panchayat elections at village level and municipal elections have been conducted. Post that, the state election commissioner has retired on March 31st, 2021. On April 1st, 2021, new state election commissioner was appointed, and Miss Neelam Sahni madam notified election for Mandal Parishad territorial constituencies and Jilla Parishad territorial constituencies, which got conducted on April 8th. And yesterday and recently, the High Court has deferred those elections, saying that it did not follow the norms as set by the Supreme Court in previous judgments, sir.
What are those norms?
Sir, according to the Supreme Court guidelines, there should be a 4-week gap between issuing of election notification and conducting of the election. However, in this case, the gap was only 1 week, sir.
Now, the appointment of state election commissioner is also in the news in recent times. Are you aware of the whole issue and what is your view on that? Who should
Yes, sir.
appoint him and what is an ideal way of appointing an election commissioner?
Yes, sir. Sir, I think just like the Election Commission of India, at the national level, the State Election Commission should also act independently and should also seem to be independent in taking its decisions without any political interference in its day-to-day functioning. However, sir, in practicality, we are not witnessing the same. There has been a persistent interference from the political class, irrespective of the parties. And I think, sir, a collegium system like bringing all the major political parties in the state and also including experts and bringing consensus in appointing politically neutral people in the commission would bring more credibility to the institution, and it will also make our democracy more stronger, sir.
But an election commissioner is appointed under the constitution, and the constitution also gives him a lot of immunity and also protection against political pressure. So what makes them yield to political pressure? On one hand, we say that they are all constitutional positions, and the moment you say it's a constitutional position, the executive cannot reach them. Okay,
Yes, sir.
a certain sense of immunity surrounds them. A certain sense of security of tenure, and they can't be just removed like any other executive functionary. So all those things they come along with it. It's like a package.
Yes, sir.
Okay, when you are clothed with so many protections and powers which are given under the constitution, where is the need to feel that you are under pressure and then you can't function independently?
Sir, definitely in positions like state election commissioner, which are constitutional bodies, have some security of tenure and also other constitutional provisions. But sir, if we see in day-to-day functioning, these constitutional bodies need support and some hand-holding of the government in everyday affairs. So when they come at crossroads with the executive, their every initiative will be blocked, and the governance process won't be very smooth, sir. And in addition to that, even after the appointment, even after the completion of their tenure in these constitutional bodies, many of the civil servants look for other good postings in seeking some favors from the government. So in that case, there is a sense of submitting their present powers to the government, sir.
So, in which case, what is the best way forward? To make them really independent and act according to their conscience, and also, draw their strength from the provisions, provided in the Constitution.
Sir, in addition to the already existing protections through Constitution, I think, sir, if we bring up a cooling off period for the people who are working in constitutional bodies, after which they cannot be appointed in any of the government postings for a particular period of time, I think that will definitely bring a impartial conduct from people working in such kind of constitutional bodies, sir.
There is also a suggestion to appoint retired, functionaries, executives. How do you like that idea?
Sir, definitely it has certain advantages, sir. They can bring their experience and wisdom into the system and also make our election process very smooth. However, sir, the same issue can also happen even after the retirement. Many people look for some favors from the government through quid pro quo. So we need the constant institutional protection to this kind of behavior, in addition to the present protections, sir.
Okay. So when was the last time you exercised your right to vote?
Sir, unfortunately, I could not exercise my right to vote till now, sir.
You were till now. You haven't even gone to a polling booth.
No,
How
sir.
old are you? No,
I'm-
you're 93 born, 27 close to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in 27 years you have not exercised, not cast your vote even once.
Sir, unfortunately, every time the elections were held, I was out of station, far from the place. So I feel I could not exercise my vote, sir.
Oh. Okay, that's quite interesting. So you never saw how a polling booth looks like.
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's really interesting. Anyway, but even if you are not gone inside a polling booth, I'm sure as one preparing for this, the level of examination, you must have come across the Nota option.
Yes, sir.
Is it really serving any purpose?
Sir, it is more of a symbolic experience, more of a symbolic initiative rather than a substance which it has. It is majorly to vent out the anger and the pain with the people, but in terms of its contribution to the election process, sir, it is minimal, sir.
How can it be improved upon? Are there any better solutions? Probably there is some intention behind introducing this, that we don't like these candidates, so therefore you express your resentment. To that extent, it is fine. But then the end result is nil, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So even given that we still continue first past the post system, whoever gets even one vote more than his rival will still get elected.
Yes, sir.
So Nota is merely an ornamental button on the EVM.
Yes, sir.
So how can we make this more effective? Is there any solution that you can think of?
Sir, can I take some time, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir. Sir, when the number of votes in Nota are highest when compared to the number of votes polled for any other candidate, even in that situation, the candidate who got the second highest number of votes is considered as winner. So at least in that kind of scenarios, we can go for repolling and giving opportunity to more people, so that at least
Okay,
people
yeah.
will.
That's some solution. Okay, fine. We are also talking of simultaneous elections all over the country. Uh, do you see any merit in that argument?
Yes, sir. Sir, definitely it helps to a certain extent, sir. As of now, sir, we are facing with multiple elections throughout the calendar year. As a result, the enforcement of model code of conduct is inhibiting the developmental projects and taking any kind of decisions, major decisions, policy decisions by the government. So this acts as a roadblock to the economic progress and development, sir. So that is one reason. And secondly, sir, the expenditure involved in regular elections is also very huge, and this can significantly be reduced if we go for simultaneous elections. Having said that, sir, there are certain issues in going for simultaneous elections, such as in the constitutional amendment. There is a need for constitutional amendment, because any government once elected needs to be given its way for 5 years, and for bringing simultaneous elections, many of the state governments need to cut short their tenure and go for election,
But
which
that would
is.
be only a one-time affair, isn't it?
Yes, sir. But if there is a
But
loss
after
of.
that, the cycle will continue and then everything will be on rails.
Yes, sir. But if there is a loss of majority or confidence
Okay.
in the house,
Okay.
then the situation comes again. The same situation comes again, sir.
Hmm.
So I recommend, sir, in my opinion, I think, sir, as the law commission recommended, we can go for two-phase polls. One half of the states along with general elections, and the remaining half after 2.5 years of the. And even if any state governments get short of its tenure, they can wait for 1 year or so and join with the next phase elections.
Now you say your hobby is singing patriotic songs.
Yes, sir.
Oh, can you name one?
Yes, sir. Sir, there is a Telugu song which is my favorite in Badi Pantulu movie, which is Bharata Mataku Jai Jailu.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I have also come across this issue of Vande Mataram becoming an emotive issue. And also, it is now assuming certain communal overtones.
Yes, sir.
Uh, Tell me why it is so, and what can be done to neutralize it.
Sir, unfortunately, this communal coloring of this Vande Mataram is happening. But, sir, I think the reason behind that is owning of this particular sentiment by few political parties, and the other political parties labeling it as being coercive. So, sir, more amount of civic awareness and also the educational levels of the people needs to be raised, so as to understand what amounts to uh, nationalism and what amounts to anti-national activities, and that will bring the whole society into more mature understanding of the issues, sir.
That brings us to finally the question of what is secularism in our country, the way it is practiced. Now it is also now coming increasingly under public debate and also for critical examination by the thinking sections of society. So how do we handle this issue of secularism?
Sir, India is a secular state, and if any issue, I think, sir, the constitution is clear, and the intellectuals are also very clear in how Indian secularism works. Unlike the West, the Indian secularism is not a clear-cut demarcation of state and religion. Rather, it comes in whenever necessary to bring out the social evils away from the society. So, to that extent, I think, sir, I personally do not see any confusion in how secularism works in India. But if it is politicized and taken away by the political class for their own benefits, I think, sir, we cannot do anything.
Now, in this context, finally, supposing we bring about the Uniform Civil Code, will that be a one-stop solution for all this problem?
Sir, it cannot be a one-stop solution, sir. However, it can bring some parity between all the religions and also bring justice to certain sections of the society. But sir, the issue will even flare up because that is not the fundamental issue at which we are struggling. It's rather understanding of the more cultures and respecting the diversity is what is needed, rather than issues like Uniform Civil Code.
So there is no urgency for a Uniform Civil Code. Can I draw that inference from what you have said?
Sir, I would like to rephrase it this way, sir. Uniform Civil Code certainly serves the purpose of a few sections and also the country at large. But rushing it through is not our priority. We should wait until all the sections of the society understands it and they voluntarily accepts it.
That's good. I enjoyed talking with you, Sai. Over to Sathyanarayana garu.
Thank you, sir.
So, Mr. Sai, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
So you hailed from Andhra Pradesh.
Yes, sir.
So there is a big talk on this Navaratnalu. You heard that Navaratnalu?
Yes, sir.
What are these Navaratnalu?
Sir, these are 9 different schemes brought by the state government of Andhra Pradesh, which include some of them are, sir, one is Arogya Sri, which is health protection scheme for the people below poverty line, and secondly there is Jala Yagnam, which focuses on the creation of irrigation projects and providing irrigation facilities to the farmers. And sir, thirdly we have a housing for all scheme, and sir, there is also Jagananna Vidya Devana, which is providing cash incentives to the mothers who send their children to schools, and there is also elimination of alcoholism.
That is called Ammavadi. You want to say?
I'm sorry, sir. Yes, sir, Ammavadi. Thank you, sir, for correcting me.
Okay, just as okay. But out of these schemes are 9 Navaratnas.
Yes, sir.
How many are the welfare schemes? How many are freebies? Rather, I will put it like this. How many are essential and how many are not essential and which are not required at this junction?
Sir, can I take it one by one, all the 9? Or should I just give the numbers, sir?
Just broadly classify.
Sir, there are both kind of schemes in these 9 schemes, sir. If we see schemes like Jala Yagnam, it is very essential for bringing irrigation to many parts of the state. On the other hand, sir, schemes like Ammavadi, they may not be our priority in this juncture because of considering the financial situation of the state. So, sir, I think, sir, it can be around 5 to 6 schemes which are essential, and the remaining can be deferred for time until we improve financially.
You see, there is a scheme called Houses for All.
Yes, sir.
So, is it required now?
Sir, in West Godavari, in the district which I come from, there is a lot of demand from poorer sections for the houses, sir. Right from 2014, when the state got divided, the major issue in West Godavari is the lack of houses for the poor people. So there is a ground level demand for that, sir. But if we equate that with the position in which state government is, I think, sir, it may not be one among the first priorities of the government.
So there are many houses built, but they are not allotted. Now they want to go for fresh houses. and now they are going for acquisition of the land and at the very exorbitant rates. No. So do you
Yes,
mean to
sir.
say that it's a wise step on the part of the government?
Sir, my wisdom is too small to comment on the wisdom of the state government. But sir, I think
Forget about that.
with limited
Just you give your
understanding,
view. You give your view.
sir, it's not fiscally prudent, sir. That I can say.
Yes. Okay. Now let's move on to. Yesterday there was a big queue at Krishnapatnam. You know that Nellore region. So are you aware of
Yes,
this
sir.
incident? What exactly is this?
Yes, sir.
So what is this
Sir,
incident?
there is. Sir, it is about the medicine for COVID pandemic, COVID disease. There is a doctor named Anandaya who was distributing the Ayurvedic medicine to the local people, and suddenly it got so much of craze because of the social media spread, and people started going there, thinking that it will be the last stop solution if the allopathic medicine doesn't work in normal hospitals.
So if you were the collector of Nellore, what would you have done in this particular juncture?
Sir, I would immediately send it to the concerned research and development institutions like ICMR for its efficacy, and by doing trials as soon as possible to speed it up as soon as possible. And if it comes out with very no side effects and very efficient in solving the disease and saving lives, then I will definitely go forward. But without scientific evidences and trials, it's very risky to try it on the lives of people.
So from the last 30 years, he has been doing the same work, but nobody has found fault with that medicine. So do you mean to say that we now should send this thing for ICMR and come up with the solution? And from the last 1 year, he has been giving for the COVID. COVID is not a old disease, it's a new one. And from 1 year, he has been giving, and nothing was asked about this. But suddenly now it has become a big news. My question here is, as the collector of the district, what would they have done differently?
Sir, as a collector of the district, I would have contacted him last year itself when he started the distribution of medicine, so that early care can be taken on its efficacy, and by also upscaling it to an extent that the lives of the people of the whole state firstly, and also for the country, can be saved. So I would be very keen in identifying people of such caliber and bringing them on the right platform so that their expertise their wisdom can be used for the people at large.
So what exactly the eye of the storm in this particular issue?
Sir, we should also give credit to the Ayurvedic medicine and homeopathic medicine on par with the allopathic medicines that we.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm talking about what is the eye of the storm in this particular issue.
Sir, the efficacy of the medicine, sir. If it is it's just that oral evidences. There are only oral evidences that the medicine is safe, but there is no documented version of the same.
Okay. Now, recently there is a big controversy regarding the Hanuman. Hanuman is everywhere. And today there is a big controversy between two states. What exactly is this issue?
Sir, the dispute is between the states of Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. So, according to both the states, it is widely there is a consensus that Lord Hanuma was born on the hill Anjanadri. But the hill Anjanadri is both in Seshachalam hills in Chittoor and also in Karnataka. So no inscriptions are clear in which Anjanadri hill Hanuma was born, and both the states claim their states as origin of Hanuma, sir.
Now, as a student of anthropology, so what is your view? Whether Hanuman was born here or there, or anywhere?
Sir, I believe in God, so sir, it is not, it is immaterial whether where Hanuma was born. For me, as a devotee of God, both are places in India, and I equally respect the same. So, sir, but sir, if Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam formed a committee in which there are scientists, there are experts in epics and scriptures, and also some anthropologists in it. They concluded that the Anjanadri in Andhra Pradesh is the home, but Karnataka claimed again that the committee has found wrong results. So, sir, even I am, as a devotee of the God, I am concerned. What will be the final solution to that?
Oh, forget about as a devotee of God, because you say your devotion or your belief in God is different. That you can keep it with you and at your home. But as a archaeologist and an anthropologist, so what exactly is your view? Why this controversy, and what is that they want to gain by this controversy?
Sir, this step, the decision, the final outcome of this dispute will boost the tourism and also the local economy of any place where Lord Hanuman's birth was attributed to, because it will be on the global map in tourism, and also pilgrimage. It will also act as a major pilgrimage center. So, sir, because of that, both the states are claiming their own lands as the origin of Lord Hanuma. And sir, I think as of today, there are no archaeological excavations that are conducted in any of these places for this dispute. And if and I'm not sure, sir, even if they are conducted, they will find any in that.
It's okay. It's okay. Tell us, Sai. So, what are the tribes in Andhra Pradesh?
Sir, Koya, Chenchu, Khond, Orja. There are around 34 tribes in Andhra Pradesh, sir, scheduled tribes.
34?
Yes, sir.
So what languages they speak? What are the languages? To which family they belong to?
Sir, they belong to Dravidian language families, sir.
So 34 tribes speak 34 types of languages, or any common language?
No, sir. Telugu is the major common language among them. But they have their own dialects with respect to their region in which they live. Certain tribes which are close to Andhra Odisha border, they have Odissi influence also, such as Khonds and Porjas.
That's okay. By the linguist study, the tribals speak different languages. Can you name a few languages?
Sir, tribes like Gonds speak Gondi language. Sir, I'm sorry, sir, I cannot recall any other.
So language. Now that you brought this word called Gondi, now there is a big dispute in Adilabad. So that is called Komaram Bhim district. Now, are you aware of this dispute?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware of it.
You are not aware of that? Okay. Now, tell us, in West Godavari district, there are very few unique features are there which we must feel proud to. Can you tell those features in West Godavari?
Yes, sir. Sir, West Godavari has one of the Ramsar sites in our country, which is Kolleru Lake. And secondly, it is also known for religious tourism, for major tourist centers like Dwarka Tirumala, which is called Chinna Tirupati. And there is also a beautiful national park, Papikondu National Park, in the Godavari Valley, in the end of West Godavari and East Godavari region, sir. And also, sir, agriculturally also the district is very productive, very fertile. And many agricultural different crops have been produced here, sir.
So UNESCO has recognized one heritage from this district. Can you name it?
Sorry, sir, I'm not exactly sure, but can I take a guess, sir?
Yes.
Sir, I think it is Guntapalli Caves, which is related to Buddhism.
Of course, that's not. I will tell you later. Coming to the last question is, you talk about patriotic songs, and you also told about Bharata Mataku JJlu, and of course Vande Mataram also you told. Now, in this respect, we got another patriotic song. దేశమంటే మట్టి కాదు, దేశమంటే మనుషులు, దేశమును ప్రేమించమన్నా మంచి అన్నది పెంచమన్నా. Who wrote this?
Sir, I'm sorry, sir. I'm not sure, sir. I think it's
Gurudad Apparao.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my question here is, what is the difference between the song written by Gurudad Apparao and the patriotic song what you have mentioned, maybe Bharata Mata Ki Jai Jailu or maybe Vande Mataram? So what is the difference between those two?
Sir, the song Bharat Mata Ko Jai Jailu, actually it describes the features of India and also makes us take pride in the country in what we have. On the other hand, the song written by Gurudad Apparao Garu, it actually probes an individual to contribute more to the nation building rather than just sitting idle and enjoying what we already have. So it promotes active involvement of an individual for the national building, sir.
Okay, nice talking to you, Sai. Or to Somashekar.
Jagat Sai, from the reading of material you've given, you look like a very unlikely student. It says that you have got an award or a scholarship for 100% attendance. Now, generally college students try to bunk classes, play, do all kinds of things. But what is this 100% attendance, scholarship? What is the motivation for you to attend all the classes?
Sir, moving from 12th standard from Andhra Pradesh to graduation in VIT University in Vellore, I was actually more enjoying the classes and also the campus. So I was curious and eager to learn more during my college days, and that is my basic motivation to attend every class and not miss any, sir.
Was the teaching so good? Was the subject very interesting? What else contributed, or is it only attendance?
Sir, no, sir. It is a combination of many factors, sir. The way of teaching is very different from what I had since my childhood, which is an interactive learning and also a practical-based learning through lab-based teaching. And I used to enjoy it a lot. So because of that, I used to attend each and every class, sir.
Okay, coming to your district, one of the most scenic places that you also mentioned is Papikondalu. I tried a couple of times, but somehow I could not manage that cruise or boat ride. What happened? What is the controversy? Why, it cannot be developed? Supposing you are given a responsibility, how you will develop it into a good tourist place? Because I think that one of the grand sites in the state.
Yes, sir. Sir, firstly, there should be a very good infrastructure at place to attract the tourism and also to promote it on a sustainable basis. So the experts in boating infrastructure and also handling of boat, safety protocols also near to that national park in boating, and sir, putting it on tourist map across the country and also across the world, and connecting it with the other tourist places which are near to it. By taking these kind of steps, I think, sir, the tourist footprint can be improved in this place.
What is the problem there? What happened? Why it was all stopped?
Sir, there was an accident last couple of years back. There is a major ship turnover and loss of many lives.
So, can something be done about the quality of boats and all that? If you go abroad, you don't face such kind of issues. Is there anything that can be done there?
Yes, sir. Definitely, sir. The quality of boats and the infrastructure can be improved, and also the safety protocols, the life jackets for the passengers, and the standard operating procedures can be placed at hand. and they needs to be implemented in letter and spirit, sir.
Okay, coming to agriculture, which is one of the big strengths of your district, can you explain to me what precision agriculture is?
Yes, sir. Sir, precision agriculture is a customized form of agriculture in which there will be a selective input of various components such as fertilizers, pesticides, water at a desired level so as to fulfill the formula of minimum input and maximum output. It also curbs the environmental degradation such as soil pollution and also pollution of the groundwater, sir.
Okay, you also heard of drones being used in agriculture. Is it a fancy idea or does it make any difference? As an engineer, can you explain?
Yes, sir. Sir, technology definitely helps in this area, sir, and even drones can be used. For example, we witness many farmers spreading the fertilizer and pesticides with bare hands in farms, and because of that, they have contracted many diseases. So by using drones, we can make sure that the farmers are away from the risk, and also the regular inspection of the fields in terms of pest infection can be curtailed by utilizing drones and the associated technologies.
Okay, about the state government and also some of the schemes that they are implementing. Of late, you see a lot of advertisements in English newspapers.
Yes, sir.
About many schemes. Some schemes are named after the former Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, YSR, and some are even named after the present Chief Minister. Now,
Yes.
some criticism is what is the point in advertising in English newspapers when the beneficiaries are all, I think, mostly can't read this language, and when the state government is starved of resources, already the financial situation is very, very precarious. What is the point in advertising like this and wasting resource? And also, is it a good practice to name schemes after people and also present chief ministers? What is your view on this two aspects?
Sir, we have a parliamentary form of government wherein the entire council of ministers are responsible for taking any decisions and running the government. But naming schemes after personal names of politicians, even if they are chief ministers, is actually a populistic phenomena. We have it in many states other than Andhra Pradesh also. I think, sir, rather than keeping the personal names, if they are named as Chief Minister Yojana, Chief Minister Padakams, and these kind of names like we have in central government, that can be a better alternative to this, sir. So that it's not the individuals, rather the government as a whole that gets the credit. On the other hand, sir, advertising in English newspapers, sir, I think it is as important as creating the schemes, because it spreads awareness among the people about the kind of initiatives that the state governments take. If, for example, although majority share should be in the regional languages, because people would able to read the regional languages more than the English, but people like me, youngsters, and also educated people and other experts, they will also come to know about these schemes through English newspapers, and they can spread this information to the people who cannot even read the regional languages. So,
No, my question is, when you are already so deep read in your finances, what is the point in frittering away your money in this? It should be more targeted, isn't it?
Definitely, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, definitely there should be a balance between the level of fiscal freedom that we have with respect to the state government and also the kind of advertisement that we do. But it is essential to a certain extent. But to what extent it is essential, that depends on the freedom that we have in revenue stream.
Okay, my last question is a very esoteric sort of question, looking far, far ahead or near future, depending on what happens. Are you aware of what's going on in space tourism? Who are the people driving this, and how close are people to go as space tourists? What companies are involved? Any idea?
Yes, sir. Sir, SpaceX is involved in this, sir. The company of Elon Musk. Hollywood movie directors from USA and also from Russia, they are planning to even shoot a movie in the space station in the space, sir.
No, I'm not talking movies. Fiction, already people have gone Mars, so many things. Real life.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In real life, in the international space station that we already had in the space, we have in the space. So these directors, they are planning to shoot a movie in the real space station, sir. Not just in creation of in studios. Rather, in the real space, they are planning to shoot it by 2024.
Okay. Thank you very much. All the best. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Sai.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, Jagat Sai. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yes, a mechanical engineer, is it?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Getting back here from Andhra Pradesh. Okay. So West Godavari, we have been witnessing that the politics have been heavily influenced by the caste system in India, especially in Andhra Pradesh. Yes.
Yes, sir.
In the light of this, how do you understand the concept of dominant caste proposed by Mysore Narasimhachar Srinivas, MN Srinivas? I'm assuming that your optional subject was anthropology, yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the wake of a huge or humongous influence of caste on politics, especially Indian politics, AP politics, how do you understand the concept of dominant caste? Do you think dominant caste system is relevant today, especially in Andhra Pradesh or in India? If yes, how?
Yes, sir. Sir, the dominant caste system concept is still relevant today, even today in India and even in Andhra Pradesh. Sir, if we just list out, if we just see through this concept through the lens of MN Srinivas himself, these castes have majorly have huge financial resources. They have huge population which can influence the voting pattern in a election, and they also have say in their bureaucracy as well. And so because of these reasons, the dominant caste in India and even in Andhra Pradesh, they can certainly make or break a party's prospects in forming a government. So this is how the concept is related to elections today, sir.
Okay. So what kind of role education has in understanding the impact of caste system in India, including Andhra Pradesh, of course? Yes.
Yes, sir.
On one hand, we are witnessing an increase, a rise in the educational standards, the medium of instruction. There was an uproar in Andhra Pradesh regarding medium of instruction.
Yes, sir.
On one hand, we are working towards establishing institutional framework concerned with increasing the standards of education or literacy, whatever you call. On the other hand, we are still following and we're still saying that the dominant caste or the caste system itself has got immense influence on the politics, on the financial prospects of the country, developmental prospects of a country. Don't you think these are mutually contradictory in each other? Yes?
Yes,
So
sir.
how do we understand this? Yes, please.
Sir, it is true that if a certain population's literacy rate is improved, if they are educated, they will certainly understand elections more through democratic lens rather than seeing it through community lens. But sir, it is not necessarily always that whoever is educated will always think from a rational point of view. Not merely literacy rate, rather the awareness levels and the rationality of an individual that determines how he perceives an election, whether it is on it should be fought on developmental lines or it should be fought on caste lines. So we in these days we see even the educated youth, even NRIs coming from the other countries, they also favor parties based on their caste. So it is quite clear that education has only limited impact, although the major factor that plays a key role in making a person more matured electorate than any other factors.
So probably this is the high time we reform the education system in India rather than any other types of reforms, especially
Yes.
adult education, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
who needs more education, adults or children? Adults, in a sense, those people who have got voting rights. That's the meaning here. In the context of, as you said, voting, in the context of electoral politics in India. Who needs education, adults
Sir,
or children?
Sir, we need education for both, but the kind of education that we impart varies for both the people. For children, the curriculum has to involve all the practical aspects that they should learn right from the childhood, so that the required traits, social traits, and personality traits, they are imbibed in their character and personality right from the childhood and nurtured by the time they achieve 18 plus years. On the other hand, for 18 plus adult population, what they need more is the civic awareness, the ground level awareness. It's not just that they get degrees, but rather what kind of wisdom they are getting from the education that they are having. So civic awareness is more important for the adult population, and for children it's the regular textbook kind of orientation they need right from the childhood, by imparting practical aspects into their curriculum.
Do we have civic awareness taught in any university for 18 plus individuals?
Sir, it need not be, sir, it need not be taught as a subject or as a course, but it develops over the course of time by regular interaction and creating that kind of positive environment in the campuses.
Okay, so if that is the case, then why 90% or 95% of the adult individuals in India are giving more importance to caste rather than other concepts of democratic politics? It's not being taught in colleges as well, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So adult education needs urgent reforms rather than children or childhood education. What do you say?
Sir, I will still stick with my stand that both are equally important, because we also should think of the future, because today's children are tomorrow's leaders and our citizens.
Of course, yes. Okay, so getting back here, so the concept of Polavaram, when we say Godavari districts, we cannot alienate them from the Polavaram. Yes?
Yes, sir.
So why this Polavaram project is continuously in news? And I have two questions. The Polavaram project is not new. The
Yes, sir.
project was like designed before independence. We know that 1941, right?
Yes, sir.
1941 itself. So we had the design given by the Madras Presidency Chief Engineer L. Venkatakrishna Iyer. We are aware of that.
Yes, sir.
And then right from 1941 till 2021, we're still constructing the project. Yes, we're still
Yes.
doing it. It's
Yes.
not yet complete. Yes. What is the problem regarding this? In a country like India, do we need this much time to complete one irrigation project? What are the main reasons behind this? Can you simplify? Yes,
sir.
please.
Sir, there are multiple factors which are slowing the progress of Polavaram project, sir. Firstly, sir, it is a very costly irrigation project. It is almost 60,000 crore project, and the disbursal of funds from the central government to the state government is not up to the expected level. And secondly, sir, there are also major cases in the judiciary against Polavaram project by the neighboring states like Odisha and Chhattisgarh, because if this project is constructed, there is a possibility of submergence of certain mandals in these areas. So there are cases and stalling of the project for some time. And thirdly, sir, there is also an issue of rehabilitation and resettlement of people and land acquisition for this problem. So, which is a major issue that is thwarting the progress of this project, sir. So, these are some of the reasons behind the slow progress of the project.
Don't you think all these kind of problems apply same or in a similar fashion to all projects in India?
Yes, sir.
Sir, why inordinate delay? You know how many years? 1941 to 2021?
Yes,
how many years? 80 years? 80?
Yes,
you need 80 years to complete one project? Well, yes. The second concept. The Polavaram project was in Guinness Book of Records for one reason. Are you aware of that?
Sorry, sir. I am aware of Pattisema lift irrigation project, but not Polavaram. I'm sorry, sir.
Okay, so in a 24-hour time span, 32,100 cubic meters of concrete was used, loaded. in this project within 24 by Navayuga Engineering and Construction Private Limited.
Thank you, sir.
Within 24 hours, 32,100 cubic meters of cement concrete was used. So that was the purpose for which Polavaram project was in Guinness Book of Records.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yes. And then regarding this, yes, tribes in Andhra Pradesh, I think the honorable dignitaries also focused on that question earlier. Yes. So the tribes, scheduled tribes in Andhra Pradesh, I guess you don't have many issues regarding the tribals and associated issues in West Godavari, right? So in East, we have ITDA. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in East. So what is one dominant tribe in your neighboring district, which was in news in the recent past? In the recent past. Are you aware of it?
Sorry, sir. No, sir.
Okay, fine. We'll come back to that later. Yes. And what are the advantages and disadvantages, pros and cons of this Godavari Penna river linking project? Are you aware of it?
Sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes.
Sir, it is a part of the major umbrella scheme of interlinking Himalayan rivers with the peninsular rivers. Sir, the pros, firstly, sir, it will serve the irrigation prospects of many regions in between Godavari and Krishna basins. So secondly, sir, it will also cater to the drinking water purpose of many people. And sir, thirdly, the almost around 900 to 1000 TMC of water is actually left into the sea through Godavari. So since Godavari is a water surplus basin, it can be diverted towards Penna, and then that can serve the purpose of some Rayalaseema districts also. So these are some of the pros, sir. And cons, sir, it involves a lot of cost expenditure by the government. And secondly, it will also involve land acquisition and rehabilitation of many people, where it can also attract the ire of the judiciary, and the project can be stalled just like the Polavaram project. And thirdly, sir, the main important issue is the environmental issue, that the environment can take a hit if the project can go forward. That is what the environmentalists say, but that it has no clear-cut proof that the environment will definitely get degraded. So we need to go for more studies and scientific evidences. Only after that we can go forward, sir.
So do you have an idea about GI tax in Andhra Pradesh? GI.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Quote few.
Sir, Tirupati Laddu, we have Bandar Laddu and Jamdani saris, Uppada saris. So these are some of them, sir. And Kondapalli toys.
Yeah, nearby you. Yeah, your place. And anything nearby you? Your place?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm unable to recall any.
Fine. So, fine. It was nice talking to you. I conclude my question and session with you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you are muted, sir. I am unable to hear you.
Gopal Garu,
Yes,
unmute
can
channel.
you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, Mr. Jagat Sai, so your personality test, the mock interview is over. It took exactly 1 hour, for the test to be conducted. Usually in UPSC, they take 25 minutes, and here, in order to probe the variety of interests that you have, the depth of interest in certain areas that you have, it has been prolonged to 1 hour, and which speaks good of your performance. Well, you have been quite honest in your replies, and you even have very minute details to several questions. Then your understanding of State Election Commission, High Court related issues, the 360 degrees view of election commissions and all that is very appreciable. You have very practical and very insightful knowledge on all these issues. So I don't want to comment. You be what you are. You have done well. Just 1 point, or just 2 points to supplement. Others will anyway tell you more about your strengths and areas of concern. I have nothing to criticize you. Only thing is about place of birth of Hanuman. You mentioned somewhere that two states are not agreeing. Factually, it has not become an interstate issue. It's only TTD, their own archaeologists and Sanskrit scholars and Vedic experts. They have come out with some defense to say that Anjanadri of 7 Tirumala Hills is the birthplace of Lord Hanuman. So it's only TTD's observation and finding, and not the government of Andhra Pradesh. And that's for your information, number one.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Two, you also mentioned the passing reference that Polavaram is a costly project. Now, you must say that it's a project with a high outlay. The cost would have escalated because of the delays. That's a different matter. Whenever you say costly project, it has to be related to the benefits.
Yes, sir.
So, absolute cost has nothing to do with the answer to the question. As long as the cost compensates the benefits, it's okay. So, try to avoid that absolute cost about that particular project.
Sure,
This is
sir.
all what I have to say. Otherwise, you are quite promising. You will do well, and I wish you all the best. Now, our colleagues, panelists will assess your performance.
Thank you, sir.
I find your responses quite measured, considered, and studied at the same time. On some of those, provocative issues like, patriotic songs and the communal overtones, your response was really studied and quite measured. You struck a fine balance, and also presented the picture in the most acceptable manner, without any slant towards any particular faith. Okay, that I really admire, and that is how it should be seen also. But there is also one particular dimension why a particular community doesn't want to sing that song. Apart from the reason you mentioned, that one particular political party or community wants it up as their song, is also because there is a reference to idol worship in this song.
Yes, sir.
And idolatry is not permitted in the belief system of the Muslims.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
By singing, they think that it would be un-Islamic, therefore they try to avoid it.
Yes,
So
sir.
by that reason alone, you cannot say that they are unpatriotic.
Yes, sir.
Because when they sing Jana Gana Mana, which is a national anthem, which means their allegiance to the country and their loyalty to the country is not in doubt.
Yes, sir.
But when this particular song, they have a certain reason, and for that reason only they try to avoid singing this. Otherwise, merely because they avoid singing this, one cannot jump to a conclusion that they are not being patriotic. Moreover, it is only a national song and also doesn't have the same stature as that of a national anthem.
Yes, sir.
Well, national song is a song, anthem is different. If you look at it from a political science angle, every nation state has a certain flag, certain anthem. These are all the characteristics of a state.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So therefore, a song, of course, is purely a matter of choice, whether you want to sing or not. That's why in all state functions, it is only the national anthem which is sung, but not national song.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So therefore, the approach that you have taken is quite, welcome. But at the same time, there is also another reason why, because of the idol worship, which is an oblique reference actually. So therefore, they tend to avoid this. But coming to the other issue of election and reform, the nota. Nota can also be given a legal fiction, the status of a legal fiction, a legal entity. So, which means in the eye of the law, you can also field a nota as a candidate. So, when you press a button, nota button, it is as if you are casting your vote to a legal person. You know the difference between a biological person and a legal person. A legal person is a fiction created by law.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't exist, but in the eye of the law, it exists. Something like a company and an individual on the same lines. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So if you give it the stature of a legal person, and if more and more people vote for it, and in a very unlikely scenario of highest number of votes being polled to Nota, what is the only option available to you? Because the person is not there, you can neither send him to assembly nor to parliament. So
Yes, sir.
definitely you have to scrap that election and then go for a fresh election. That is one scenario. The other way of reforming Nota is not peg it at a very high level, going by the first past the post system. But even if you consider, let's say, a certain percentage, maybe 6%, 8%, or 10%, which can always be debated and arrived at. So if you maybe in consultation with all political parties, you sit around and decide. Maybe if you arrive at a certain percentage of Nota as against the number of votes polled. Now, if Nota registers that percentage of votes, you can deem it that the candidates have the voters have rejected all candidates. Therefore, you can also scrap that election and go for a fresh election.
Yes, sir.
So this could be another approach to make Nota more effective. And of course, electoral reforms is a very big subject by itself. There are many other suggestions, but I'm really surprised. You are now 26 plus, or maybe touching 27, and then you have never stepped into a polling booth. At least for the sake of an experience, you must step in and see for yourself. I don't know when the next election will be, but maybe by then you will be some returning officer or some assistant returning officer. What is in store for you, I do not know. But then you are a potential candidate for civil services. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Sai,
Yes, sir.
I agree with Chairman Sir on the remarks passed by him, because you are very cool, calm, maintained your poise, balanced in your approach. You have not gone either side. So that's a very nice trait which is required for a bureaucrat. So we should
Thank you,
not
sir.
take sides as a bureaucrat. Apart from those things, a few suggestions I would like to give here are the state scheme that is called the Navaratnalu. So be thorough, because that is the flagship program for the present government. And be sure about what exactly they mean. So don't go by a different nomenclature.
I'm sorry, sir. I will make sure that it is.
It's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal, but I give a caution. Coming to the Krishnapatnam Anandaya, the issue is different. The issue is not that he is giving the medicine. Medicine is one thing, but the eye drops is another thing. Medicine he has been giving, but the eye drops, so the belief is that by putting the eye drops, the oxygen levels are going up. So
Yes,
this
yes.
is something we cannot go by without testing it. So there, medicine from the 30 years they have been taking, and there is no complaint. Even now also there is no complaint. So instead of totally stopping the entire process, I think the medicine part may be continued. But the eye testing, that's called the drops in the eye, that eye drops might have been taken care of. So that aspect, I think you can think about it.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, coming to Hanuman, sir has already given. It is not between the two states, it's between TTD and the other Karnataka. So they feel that we are encroaching into that.
Okay.
But here, one point I would like to tell you, I believe in God. You mentioned twice. So is it required and is it necessary?
Sir, I should have avoided it, sir.
Yeah, don't bring your personal views here, but I am giving a caution that as a student of anthropology, so always remember, as a student of anthropology, you must go by the research.
Yes,
The inscriptions are maybe this thing, inscriptions we cannot authenticate. Who authenticates that Hanuman was born here or there? It is a controversial issue, and nobody can authenticate where he was born, whether he was born or not, nobody knows. So
Yes,
this is all purely an emotional issues where I think the intellectuals should take a firm stand not to involve people into this type of arguments because it will disturb the law and order aspect. Okay, coming to
Yes,
the
sir.
number of tribes in Andhra Pradesh, to my knowledge, the number of tribes in Andhra Pradesh are only 12. Please check. If you want, I will give the list of the 12, but please check whether it's 12 or 32. Okay.
He was
I'm not
referring to
going to give
combined.
that.
He was
Sir,
referring to combined Andhra Pradesh, perhaps.
Sir,
Sir,
to
in
my
combined also, sir, there are lesser. There's only 9 in Telangana and 12 in Andhra Pradesh. So anyway, that's not a big deal. But check those things.
I will check it, sir.
Yeah. So all tribes are not going to speak only Telugu or maybe some dialects of Telugu. So there are many languages, Dravidian languages like Gondi, Ponda, Pengu, Manda, Kuyu, Kuvi, Kolami, Parji, Gadaba.
Yes,
So
sir.
these are different languages are there for the tribes because they got their own identity. They have their own literatures. We have to see that. So that they
Yes,
are not
sir.
Telugu people. So they speak different languages. Some people speak because it's a bilingual, but they have their own culture, their own language that we have to respect.
Sure, sir.
Okay. So coming to the West Godavari UNESCO issue is that the Vedas, which has the oral heritage recognition by the UNESCO, it is started the Sri Venkateshwara Veda Pathasala of I. Bhimavaram village. It's a unique way because Vedas are oral recitations.
Yes, sir.
So that is being recognized. That's a pride for the Telugu people.
Okay, sir, I am sorry, sir. I am not aware of this. I will read more on it.
Yeah,
Sir.
please go through. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
this is in your own place only. So coming to Gurujada's poem, I asked because
Yes,
you
sir.
told about Bharat Mata Jailu. So there is a big difference between these two patriotic songs. One is on nationalism, the other is on patriotism. I think there is a big difference between those two terms. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Nationalism and patriotism, and that is being reflected in Gurujada. Gurujada is not confined to only one particular place. Gurujada is universal. That's why Gurujada is a very towering intellectual of Andhra Pradesh.
Yes, sir.
So we produced very few people such like Gurujada, and this a great contributor for the culture of Andhra Pradesh, and in particular to India also. So please go through the difference between these two songs. So he is confining to Bharat Mata Vagera, but he never mentioned any place there. He's universal. He's appealing to the universal thing. So that's what the cult patriotism. So there is a big difference between this. That's why I brought this to make you aware that there is a difference between nationalism and patriotism. Okay, so
Thank you,
nice
sir.
speaking to you, Sai. Hope that
Thank
you should be on the top of the list and come as the IS officer or maybe Telangana, maybe Andhra. So whatever may be your choice, wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sai Jagat,
Sir.
I think we had a good discussion on different subjects. 1 or 2 points. First, my impression is that you are quite well informed and quite measured in your responses. However, when I asked you about AP government schemes, naming, fiscal position, I think you need to have a broader picture of state. So in the context of the questioning is completely different, isn't it? You are now facing a pandemic, you have no money, you are on debt, and then you are advertising in a medium which beneficiaries don't understand. then you're trying to take political advantage. So there are many issues into this. So I think you need a more measured response to this issue.
Sure,
The
sir.
second thing esoteric question I asked about space, I was referring to, and I wanted you to understand that space tourism is becoming a business. The International Space Station is an experiment, and people went there. Even in 2001, a multi-billionaire bought ticket, whatever, and spent a week. But now what's happening is the Jeff Bezos company, Elon Musk, and Virgin Galactic of Richard Branson, they are offering space tours. So you can buy a ticket if you are very, very rich. So $2 million is what a ticket costs on New Shepard of Jeff Bezos, which will fly in July. So there are a lot of business generated space tourism and all that. So that I think it's interesting to read and also perhaps futuristic. Otherwise, I think you are very composed and I think good knowledge about the state and other aspects. I think all the best to you.
Thank you, sir.
Jagat Sai. So it
Sir.
was a very enriching experience we had, and I got convinced that you're knowledgeable, aware, and talking to you was really fruitful. And then definitely you have a complete, balanced approach towards almost all paradigms of the requirements. So a few areas, as I always say that, you need to work on something called as contemporary developments, any kind of recent developments, which I definitely, I bet you would go through the recent developments and then be ready with the specifics, the details, facts and figures and numbers. Be ready with them so that your answer may be a little more sophisticated. You got it?
Sure,
so
sir.
Otherwise, rest everything is perfect. And I wish that you would be in the selection list and you would come out now with the flying colors and the desired post. And all the very best. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good. So, Jagat Sai, your personality test ends here. Only thing is, we have your mobile number.
Sir.
I'll also check again about the number of scheduled tribes. I have a suspicion that you are responding correctly, but I don't know. Let me check, and we'll get back to you on your mobile phone subsequently. Otherwise, if you have any questions, you please ask.
Sir, I do not have any specific questions, sir. I just want to clarify a few things from my side. Yeah. Sir, I recently researched on this and I found that there are 12 primitive vulnerable tribal groups.
You are right. I also have the same feeling. And there are 34 tribes in Andhra Pradesh and maybe 32 or so in Telangana. But we'll check and get back.
Yes, sir. I will check again, sir.
Yeah, sure.
And also, sir, in the Vande Mataram song, as Vivek sir said, yes. Sir, I understood it that there is a mention of polytheism and Islamic community majorly is a monotheistic religion. So because of that reason, they don't sing Vande Mataram song. And I do not know about idealism, so that is a very enriching thing, sir. Thanks for giving that dimension also.
No, you see, many reasons can be invented, but basically,
yes, sir.
The point is Islam doesn't permit idolatry.
Yes,
so
sir.
Idol worship, so the moment you say Bharat Mata and you have a image and all that, the moment you bring in that concept, it clashes with their belief system, and yes, secondly, it doesn't enjoy the same status as a national anthem. Yes, so whether you sing it or not really doesn't really matter.
Yes, sir.
It can be some kind of an emotional song in the way you like, Bharat Mata JJ. Maybe I like, Vande Mataram. That's all.
Yes, sir.
So there's nothing like, in an official status which is being given, and for not complying with that, it would amount to, disaffection towards state. Doesn't attract any, provision of the law or anything.
Yes.
So that's why in all state functions you will see only Jana Gana Mana is being sung.
Yes, sir.
Vande Mataram is a matter of choice. You want to do it in a private function, you can do it, otherwise no. But
Yes,
all
sir.
state functions invariably only Janaganamana.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you. All the
Thank you,
best.
sir.
May God bless you. You
Thank
may
you, sir.
leave now.